what is your position on whether or not to fully fund a new animal shelter that would include a livestock area and an animal medical clinic? If you aren't in support of it, what would you eliminate?
I'm in support of it. From what I understand, it's very lacking the funds to complete it. From what I've been told, the plans were made, it was drawn, it was designed. The money's not quite there. There is another additional grant coming in. I've been told our county does have a grant writer that we haven't had for quite a few years, so I'm hopeful that that can be continued to be explored by her as well as the department head and the supervisors. I support it. The need is there. I've utilized it myself. I had a feral cat show up during Butte Fire, and I have been working for years to control that cat population. They've helped me. They help a lot of people with livestock. I'm always hearing about it, so I support it. It's just a matter of money, like everything else in this county. But I think we can get creative and keep looking and make it happen.
I agree with what Autumn said. I find very often that we agree a lot of things up here.
We all want the same thing.
We all want the same things. You know, a lot of it, just sometimes how we want to get there is slightly different. Absolutely, animals are just incredibly close to my heart, and so I think that, you know, having a good place for them, particularly when they've been displaced and they're traumatized and they're scared and they're away from their humans, is very important. You know, not just for their safety, but for our safety. If we have large animals running around and they're in the road, we're in danger also. So I know that Senator Alvarado Gill's office was able to get us $200,000 towards this project. It was announced at the State of the County address. So one of the venues that I would do is utilize would be, you know, if we got money from her before, I'd go back and start poking her again.
She said she gives more money.
Yeah, there we go. End of report.
Well, I'm gonna shock you all by agreeing with it. I mean, it's a great idea and I would love to do it. And I was actually talking to Lisa about this today. We're short, I guess the first phase is like $5 million and we're short like 3. It's an appalling, it's appalling how short it is. But I think you're right. I think we should go after Senator Alvarado Gill, see if she has more funding available, get the grant writer on it, find creative ways. Maybe we can work with some veterinary offices. I'm not really sure what the solution is, but it's like everything else in this county. It costs a lot of money and we don't have it all. There's also some discussion about trying to get other departments to defer some of their CIP projects so that funding could be freed up to go to the animal shelter to get at least the first phase done. So, yeah.
CIP is capital improvement.
Yeah, capital improvement project. My apologies.
No worries.
So yeah, the animal shelter has been a long-standing issue. There are grand jury reports going back 20 or 30 years and we still haven't gotten a new shelter. So this is something that's been going on for a long time. Speaking to members of the community, it's definitely something that there have been a lot of community members who have supported the animal shelter, worked with the animal shelter and volunteered their time and energy. There was a lot of work about 6 years ago with the Humane Society to try and build a new shelter. That partnership fell through. From what I've heard, if the current animal shelter project isn't actually seen through and completed, we're going to have even worse relationships with the community going forward, because so many people have been told so many times that there was going to be something done to address this issue, and here we are still failing to address it. And some of the grand jury reports outline criminal malfeasance and levels of underservice that simply are not acceptable. And so this is something that we need to get behind and support. We also need to figure out where our priorities are, because like Michelle said, there's the capital improvement projects, there's a list of capital improvement projects that have been allocated resources in this last budget. And at the top of the list is building a new DA's office. So the DA's gotten about $6 million, and the primary reason for why we need to build a new DA's office is because the weight of the files that they have in storage in the portables there are compromising the portables. And so structurally, the portables can't hold the amount of paper that they've got in there. I think we can find a storage, exactly, we can get a storage unit or find some sort of facilities to hold documents for the district attorney's office that shouldn't cost us $6 million. Now, I think they need good resource. Good point. But yeah, so that's where I stand.
Well, and I'm gonna interject something, there is Friends of Calaveras Animal Services. They're all volunteers and they do clinics, vaccine clinics for pets, they do the microchipping, they, volunteers work at that shelter, and it's a great organization, and if anybody is interested, I'm sure they would be willing to, take your volunteer time or donations. Again, that's Focus, FOCAS. Okay. If there were another public health situation similar to COVID, would you support the public health officer and his or her directions?
Yes, I absolutely would. I've met with Dean Kaleda, the former chief medical officer of the county. He's somebody who I respect deeply. I know what he went through during the pandemic. I know that there was a lot of controversy and a lot of issues in the community around it, and I know that he underwent a lot of attacks and threats from different people. He had to fight just to get the county to accept grant money that was being given to the county to address the pandemic, and that the strain of that really cost us a valuable member of our community, somebody who's lived here, who's worked here in our community, and helped many of us over the years. And so I personally would support whatever any medical expert has to say on that issue.
Michelle?
Well, I'm going to be boring and agree with Trevor on this. I think that we need to support our medical health officer, and I too have heard of all the threats that were made against Dean Kaleda, and I think it's appalling. We need to support our official. It's pretty simple, and protect the public health, whatever way that looks like.
Sure.
My answer is not going to be boring, and I'm going to ask you not to throw things at me, please. First of all, any threats of violence against a public official, let me just say out loud, are absolutely wrong, and torturing someone because of their opinion is horribly wrong. However, I believe that it is important to question everything, including our public officials, if we find that we do not understand or know the source of their information, why they're doing something, etc. So to answer the question, which is, would you support your public health official in the next emergency? It depends on what they're saying and what the source of their information is, and I'm gonna ask a lot of questions. That's my answer. Thank you.
So my answer will be two-part. I do support our officials. I do know the deputy director, and actually the department I work for is moving in with public health, so I'm gonna know her a lot more soon. And I respect our officials. Also sad what happened with Dean, and would never want to see that. I would, though, it all depends. I would make an educated stance. You have to listen to your people. You have to listen to the officials. You have to listen to legal counsel as a board of supervisor and make your decision. I respect our officials, and I think at the end of the day, you do back them up as a supervisor.
last question. The county has a general plan, and I have some text here that has been suggested that it be adopted to be included in the general plan, and would you support including it? That is, while this plan seeks harmony of land uses, it respects the constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property.
Is that a question?
I'm not really clear on the question.
Is that a question?
I think the
Question is, would you like to add that?
Would you
Add that, add that verbiage
Adopt that
to,
statement into the general plan, is
I
that
got you.
correct?
I got you.
Could you read it again, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
be clear on what we're being asked?
Okay. While this plan seeks harmony of land uses, it respects the constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property.
so
Can you read
that,
the whole question again from the beginning?
That is, okay, there's a little bit of background, can I go ahead with this, Al? This is
Al. Question.
maybe I should have Al get up for a moment. This has been a question for a long time to be included in the general plan. Al, I almost threw the question out because I thought this is what would happen, because our constitution doesn't even say life, liberty, and property. It says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
No. That's the declaration. That's the
Independence. Excuse me, you're right. You're right. So anyway,
Amendment 5 and 14 specifies that exact wording. Most people don't know that.
thank you for enlightening us.
So carry on, could you repeat it one more?
Yeah, one more time. So this would be adopted in our general plan. The statement is, I quote, "While this plan seeks harmony of land uses, it respects the constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property."
I'm going to say I would consider it. I would want to fully read the general plan with it in there, with it out of there a few times. I like the way it sounds, but I would need to read it fully through with it before it's decided.
Carol?
I like her answer. And, I need to read the Constitution, because one of the things that we are going to, ask to do is take an oath to the Constitution. So I would say that, it would be the job of, the supervisors to know if that is not added, that it's a given. And that is part of what we're looking at when we're looking at the general plan, is that we need to look at it through that lens, because we are taking an oath to the Constitution of the United States. And you just taught me that I better get my butt in there. and read it. Thank you.
I just happen to have a copy.
Yeah, I want one. I'll take it. Thank you.
I do,
I'll take one too, Al.
The question asker has received, thank you.
Okay, you got, I thought you had others too. Yeah, he's got
I'll
more,
take
so I
it.
get the rest of them. Michelle?
I would want to, as Adam said, look at the general plan with it and without it. Where is it going to be, and what is the intention there? I mean, I think in one sense, if it's part of the Constitution, it's already there. I mean, the plan can't go against the Constitution. On the other hand, does it create a situation where it has that little, you know, like when you've got a sweater that's got a little loose thread, and you start to pull on it, and it unravels the whole thing, because it's seen as a way to get at a bunch of different stuff. So I don't know, I mean, I kind of feel like I need to see how it would look in the plan overall, keeping in mind, of course, that we do need to protect everyone's right to property.
Trevor?
Yeah, so I agree with many of the comments made already. The Constitution already outlines these rights and protects these rights, and so if the general plan were to violate the Constitution, that portion of the general plan would necessarily be challengeable. You could challenge it, and that could be determined by a court. And so while I also don't necessarily know all the legal implications of framing it and phrasing it that way and including that into the general plan. I would need to talk to county council, see what the implications of that are, but I would just reassure everyone that your constitutional rights are protected and cannot be abridged by the general plan. And so if the general plan does violate your constitutional rights, you have recourse through the courts, and I would support efforts. And as somebody who's had general plan fights in the past, I know what it's like to go through the process of trying to defend your rights and to, you know, litigate land use issues. So it's not something that I necessarily, I think that we need to protect people's constitutional rights. We don't want to get the county into unnecessary litigation, and so any way we can avoid that, we should.
Thank you. That's pretty much, there were some questions that were, submitted that I didn't do because they were very similar to another one that was already asked, so hopefully everybody's that submitted a question got their answer one way or another. If it wasn't their exact question, it was a similar one. So it's time now for our candidates to give their closing statement. And we started with Autumn at the beginning, but we're gonna do the opposite way this time. So Autumn, you will have the last word. And then